Oklahoma Attorney General is calling for the state parole board to deny clemency for a convicted murderer.
Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez was sentenced to death for the murder of Olimpia Fisher. He was convicted for stalking the woman for months before shooting her to death in 2003. He has a clemency hearing next month, and AG Gentner Drummond wants the parole board to vote against the death row inmate.
In a statement, Drummond wrote in part, Olimpia's daughters and family have endured unimaginable pain for the past 23 years. I am committed to seeing that justice is done for their loved one. Cuesta-Rodriguez's execution is set for August 13th.
August 13th, 2026. One date, 3 states, 3 executions, all on the same day. The last time America saw anything like this was January 7th, 2010, 16 years ago. Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma. But today, we are going to Oklahoma, to a 70-year-old man sitting on death row inside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester, waiting for a lethal injection. His name is Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez, and here is where this story stops being ordinary. When this man was given a chance to live, a formal hearing, a board ready to listen, he looked them in the eye and said, in plain English, I don't want any clemency. No hesitation, no attorney prompting him. Just those words. Was this a man who truly accepted justice, or a man too broken to believe he deserved to live? What he said next left even the board chair reconsidering his vote. That moment is coming. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Now let's get into it. Before we talk about the crime, we need to talk about the woman who lost her life. Her name was Olimpia Cardina Fisher. She was born in 1959 in Chihuahua, Mexico. She did not come to Oklahoma City chasing fame or fortune. She came for something much simpler, a better life for her daughters. She worked as a packer for a moving company. Long shifts, physical work, the kind of job that leaves your body tired and your hands rough. But every night, she came home, and she showed up for her girls. She had 2 daughters, Katia Tone and Cynthia Tone. At the time of the murder, Katia was living in the house with her mother. She was just 18 years old and 5 months pregnant. Olimpia had found a partner in Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez. By 2002, the 2 of them had bought a house together in Oklahoma City. A shared home, a shared future, or so it looked. But her long work hours became a problem. Her independence became a source of rage for him. Her dedication to providing for her family, he twisted that into suspicion. She was 43 years old. She had grandchildren on the way. She had everything to live for. Now let's talk about the man behind this story. Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez was a Cuban immigrant who arrived in the United States in 1980, right around the time of the Mariel boat lift, when thousands of Cubans crossed over to American shores. He did not have an easy beginning. Growing up in Cuba, he lived in poverty. His stepfather beat his mother in front of him. As a child, he suffered a serious head injury that left him with skull damage. He was admitted to a psychiatric facility and, according to defense records, was treated with electroshock therapy. Defense experts later argued that those childhood injuries permanently damaged his frontal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for judgment and impulse control. He carried that damage his entire life. In Oklahoma City, he worked as a laborer. His employer trusted him so much that he personally lent him $5,000 toward the house down payment. Co-workers praised his work ethic and even testified on his behalf at trial. But court records tell a different story behind closed doors. He had a drug conviction in 1988. He drank heavily. And once he and Olimpia settled into that house together, a dangerous pattern of jealousy and possessiveness began to take hold. To the world, a hard-working man. To Olimpia, something far more dangerous. The house they bought together in 2002 was supposed to be a new beginning. It became a trap. Cuesta-Rodriguez could not accept Olimpia's work schedule. He did not believe she was where she said she was. Court records show he called her constantly, demanding to know her location, questioning her every move, accusing her of lying. When she and Katia went anywhere together, he tracked that too. The arguments grew louder. He told Olimpia she needed to pack her things and get out. She told him the same. 2 people, 1 house. No way out that either of them could agree on. Then came May 20th, 2003, Olimpia walked into a police station. She had severe bruising on her arm and her stomach. She needed help. An officer told her he would photograph her injuries and immediately go arrest Cuesta-Rodriguez. She stood up, said never mind, and walked out. She had one chance to change what was coming. She walked away from it, and what she did not know, she had 11 days left. The fights did not stop. The tension did not ease, and on May 30th, 2003, Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez opened a bottle of tequila. Friday evening, May 30th, 2003. Cuesta-Rodriguez was alone in the house, drinking tequila. He picked up his phone and called Olimpia. She told him she was at work. He did not believe her. Court records show he claims he got in his car, drove to her workplace, and did not see her there. So he drove back home and went to bed, convinced she had lied. That claim would later fall apart in court. Around 10 o'clock that night, Katya came home. The house was completely dark. She turned on the light and stopped. On the table sat an empty tequila bottle, on top of a handwritten note. It was filled with profanities, directed at her mother and at her. She could hear him coughing in the master bedroom. She tried calling her mother. No answer. The note on that table was not the last thing he left behind that night. What came next was something no daughter should ever have to survive. If you have not subscribed yet, do it right now. Stay with me. We are going into the night it all ended. Katya did not stay in that dark house. She got back in her car and drove straight to her mother's workplace. When Olimpia finished her shift, the two of them went to a nearby McDonald's for a late meal, mother and daughter, together. She was exactly where she said she was. Every accusation Cuesta-Rodriguez had made that night, wrong. They drove back home. Inside, they made a decision. They were going to pack their things and leave. Not that night, though. Tonight, they would sleep. Olimpia took the spare guest bedroom. Katya went to her own room. For a few hours, the house was quiet. Then came 4:30 in the morning. Saturday, May 31st, 2003. Katya's eyes snapped open, loud arguing, coming from the guest bedroom. She got up, walked in, and found her mother and Cuesta-Rodriguez in the middle of a heated fight. She looked at her mother and said, "Come sleep in my room." Then she walked back, hoping Olimpia would follow. She did not follow. Olimpia reached for a phone. She was going to call the police. Cuesta-Rodriguez snatched it straight out of her hand and threw it across the room. Then he reached for something else, a double-barreled .45 caliber pistol, loaded with 2 shotgun shells. He raised it and fired. The shot struck Olimpia in the right eye. The medical examiner would later confirm that first shot did not kill her. Katya heard the blast. She reached under her bed, grabbed a baseball bat, and ran back into the room. She swung at his hand, trying to knock the gun loose. He grabbed the bat, threw it to the floor. Katya ran out of the house and reached a neighbor's home. She called 911. 4:39 in the morning, the call connected. 4:41, the first officers arrived, 2 minutes flat. Outside the house, officers could hear Olimpia screaming. They could hear her banging against a bedroom window, desperately trying to get out. But burglar bars covered every single window and every door. She could not get out. They could not get in. They were kicking at the door when they heard it. A second shot, exactly 8 minutes after the first. This one went through Olimpia's other eye. This one killed her. She was 43 years old, and police were standing right outside when it happened. He had 8 full minutes. 8 minutes where she was alive, suffering, trying to survive. What he chose to do in those 8 minutes is exactly what sent him to death row. With Olimpia confirmed dead, everything outside that house shifted. A SWAT team was called in. A hostage negotiator arrived with a loudspeaker, positioned outside, talking into the darkness, urging Cuesta-Rodriguez to come out peacefully. He did not respond. Eventually, the SWAT team stopped waiting. They forced their way into the house and took Cuesta-Rodriguez into custody right where they found him, inside the home he had shared with Olimpia. By the time he was brought out, news cameras were already on scene. The house that he and Olimpia had purchased together just 1 year earlier was now wrapped in police tape. Outside, on a neighbor's porch, sat Katya, 18 years old, 5 months pregnant. She had just experienced the worst night of her life, helpless, listening to her mother's final moments from across the street. Years later, she would say, Carlos chose to take my mother's life. He didn't just hurt her. He hurt all of us who knew her, who loved her, who needed her. He took a great person who did not deserve to die." End quote. And then there was Cynthia, Olimpia's other daughter. She lost her mother that same morning, without ever setting foot inside that house. 2 daughters, 1 morning, a future permanently fractured. This was not a case that required detectives to start from scratch. Prosecutors walked into this investigation with something rare: an eyewitness who was inside the house, and officers who were standing outside when the second shot was fired. The medical examiner's report made things even clearer. The first shot was survivable. The second shot came 8 minutes later, fired deliberately, while Olimpia was still alive and suffering. That finding alone spoke volumes about intent. Court records show Cuesta-Rodriguez told investigators he had driven to Olimpia's workplace that evening and she was not there. Katya's account destroyed that story completely. She had driven to the workplace herself, waited for her mother to finish her shift, and the 2 of them went to McDonald's before coming home together. Investigators then pulled the May 20th police report, the visit Olimpia had made just 11 days before her death. The documented bruising on her arm and stomach, the moment she walked away. It established a clear pattern of escalating abuse long before that final night. And then came Katya's testimony, the detail that directly challenged the defense's entire argument. She told investigators that when Cuesta-Rodriguez fired those shots, he was steady on his feet and speaking very clearly. The defense planned to argue intoxication. The only person in that room said otherwise. There was no mystery about who pulled the trigger. Cuesta-Rodriguez was arrested inside the house. The weapon was recovered at the scene. The case was never about identifying a suspect. It was about proving exactly what kind of murder this was. Prosecutors set their sights on first-degree murder, premeditated, deliberate, intentional. The evidence they assembled was significant. The double-barreled .45 caliber pistol, 2 spent shotgun shells. The medical examiner's testimony walking the jury through the sequence. First shot, 8 minutes of suffering. Second shot. And Katya's complete eyewitness account, from the moment she heard the argument to the moment she ran out of the house. The weapon itself told a story. A double-barrel pistol loaded with shotgun shells is not something kept carelessly in a drawer. It has to be loaded deliberately. That detail mattered to prosecutors. The May 20th domestic violence report was added to the file, proof that the violence did not begin that night. Prosecutors also documented his pattern of tracking Olimpia's movements, monitoring her phone calls, and showing up at her workplace unannounced. His employer took the stand. Co-workers praised his character and work ethic. It was a genuine showing of support, but none of it could explain away 8 minutes between 2 gunshots, with a woman screaming and police already at the door. The case did not reach a courtroom until June 2007, 4 years after Olimpia Fisher was killed. The prosecution built their argument on 3 things: the 8-minute gap between the 2 shots, the eyewitness who was inside that house, and the documented history of abuse that stretched back months before the murder. The defense pushed back. They presented brain injury, frontal lobe damage, childhood trauma, alcohol use on the night of the killing. They argued that Cuesta-Rodriguez was a man shaped by damage he never chose and never received proper treatment for. The state was not moved. Their position was straightforward. He was steady on his feet. He was speaking clearly. He had a loaded weapon in his hand, and he made a choice. Then Katya took the stand. She told the jury everything: the argument, the first shot, the baseball bat, the run to the neighbor's house, and what it felt like to hear that second gunshot from across the street. The jury came back with 2 aggravating circumstances. The murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, pointing directly to those 8 minutes of conscious suffering. And Cuesta-Rodriguez was deemed a continuing threat to society. Guilty. Death. He appealed. In 2019, the United States 10th Circuit Court of Appeals rejected his final petition. The sentence stood. Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez spent nearly 2 decades on death row inside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. On July 14, 2026, he attended his clemency hearing. His attorneys Emma Rolls and Callie Heller laid out a detailed argument: profound brain damage, untreated psychosis, critical evidence left out of his original trial, and inadequate representation from his first defense team. Only 4 of the 5 board members were present that day. They listened. They prepared to deliberate. Then Cuesta-Rodriguez spoke. In plain English, unprompted, he said, "I don't want any clemency. I don't want any mercy." Then, through a translator, he turned his words toward Olimpia's daughters. "I know that nothing I say will be enough to erase your pain, but I do want to tell you that I regret it and I am truly remorseful from the bottom of my heart. My time has come, and I want to leave in peace. It's time for me to pay for what I did." Board Chair Robert Rivas II admitted he had been somewhat inclined to vote for clemency. Then he heard those words. He changed his vote. Final count, 3-1. Clemency denied. August 13, 2026. 3 executions. 3 states. Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma. Carlos Cuesta-Rodriguez. Lethal injection. Oklahoma State Penitentiary, McAllister. Katja Wallace was 18 years old when she lost her mother, 5 months pregnant. The child Olimpia would never hold. The house purchased with a borrowed $5,000, meant to be a fresh start, became a crime scene. The man who spent years trying to control every move Olimpia made ultimately handed control of his own fate to a board of strangers and asked them to end his life. He chose that outcome, just like he chose that second shot. Olimpia Fisher had packed bags waiting. She had a door she was ready to walk out of. She never got the chance. Which moment in this story hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments below. And if you are new here, subscribe. Every week, we follow the cases that don't let go.